Well, the next US Democratic debate has all but been confirmed to be a showdown between Senator Bernie Sanders and former Vice President Joe Biden. The pair make up the final three candidates after Senator Elizabeth Warren dropped out of the race. Hawaii Representative Tulsi Gabbard is still running her campaign, but doesn't make debate qualifications after dismal national polling numbers. The two frontrunners will face off in Phoenix on March 15. The former Vice President is leading the delegate count after a shock comeback on Super Tuesday. 652 delegates pledged to support him, compared with 573 for Bernie Sanders. And joining me now live to discuss this is Professor Joe Siracusa from RMIT. Professor, good afternoon. Thank you for joining me.
Well, my pleasure. Good afternoon.
Firstly, was it a surprise at all that Elizabeth Warren dropped out of the race this week?
Danica, it's not only a surprise. I mean, it's an incredible week in politics. I mean, the whole thing turned around in about 72 hours. I mean, Warren was up there to the end. I mean, she was supposed to do well. Bernie was supposed to do well. And then everything changed after the Super Tuesday, after the African Americans came out and backed Vice President Biden. Everything changed. It was like everything changed on a dime. It just spun around. And the idea that Warren came in third in her own state is really eating humble pie. And that she's dropped out of the race is extraordinarily big news. And so we started with 24 really brilliant candidates. And now we're down to two old white guys who are going to test with each other to see who faces off another old white guy. I mean, it's extraordinary. We've gone back to the, Coca-Cola and Pepsi, the brand names. No one wants to try anything else. And, of course, the problem here, what's driving the whole thing, is this coronavirus. It's got Wall Street spooked. It's got Americans spooked. And America now is looking for somebody with proven safe hands. And I suspect that's why Biden is doing so well, because they trust him rather than trusting Donald Trump's judgment that it's hoax news or something like that. So I think the coronavirus scare and what's going on in politics, they're intimately connected. And Wall Street, doesn't usually give a damn about the soap opera in Washington. It could care less. But with the coronavirus, the way it brings commerce and finance and education to a halt with billions of dollars of losses and revenue and all the rest of it, this gives Wall Street great pause. And, of course, if we don't handle this correctly, we could be looking at something worse. So some guy from Harvard just used the figures from the Spanish flu of 1919, 1920, and at 2%, he reckons that 60 to 100 million people could die in the next 18 months. That's very possible, but that many would die from a short nuclear exchange, too. I mean, we're talking about extraordinary numbers, no matter what happens. And I think Americans just get a little tired of the soap opera in Washington, and they want somebody who looks normal, a real professional politician who's famous for being a legislator and somebody who's famous for compromise and putting consensus together. So there's a lot of deep currents going on. But yes, it's a shocking week in American politics.
Just on that, you mentioned that Americans are looking for a safe pair of hands. What kind of a position does this put Donald Trump in now? Given we've seen the dropouts over the last couple of days, Americans are spooked, that the global economy is spooked. What position is Donald Trump in now?
Well, Donald Trump kept saying he wanted to face off against Bernie Sanders, which is not exactly right. I mean, Sanders might have lost him at the end. I think Donald Trump is terrified of going up against Joe Biden for a whole number of reasons. Number one, he's not going to be able to smart aleck his way around Joe Biden on stage. I mean, if he insults Biden or his family, Biden's going to go over there and punch him in the face. I mean, he's picking the wrong fight here. He doesn't want to face this guy. I think Donald Trump is a little bit on the ropes. I think while he won his primaries, of course, on Super Tuesday and the rest of it, I don't think he's looking forward to Biden, so he's going to have to rethink this a little bit. And he's going to have to think about what to do with the crisis ahead. And, of course, he's got all the normal problems. North Korea, Iran, Vladimir Putin, all the rest of it. He's got all the usual problems, plus this one. So I think the president is going to be particularly hard-pressed. Now, keep in mind, and I have this debate with myself all the time, and I hate debating myself. It's self-torture. You know, is Donald Trump the symptom, or is he the cause of what's going on? I think if Trump weren't in the White House, there'd be someone like Trump in the White House. Well, you know, at first it's fun to have a guy who hosted a reality show for 14 years. But when people around you start dropping dead, it's not so funny anymore. You want to find someone in the White House who takes everything very seriously and takes his control center in Atlanta very seriously. So I think Americans are having sort of a second thought about who should be in control in the immediate period ahead. And we're going to have the same debate in this country, too, believe me.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Michael Bloomberg. Where did it all go wrong for him, do you think? And do you think that it did play on voters' minds that he spent so much money, millions of dollars out of his own pocket for his own campaign?
Well, you know, we're all old enough to know the old saying that money can't buy you love.
Yeah.
He's trying to buy political love. It cost him $500 million to get a couple votes. Look, it was a good idea when he went in. He jumped in because he thought Biden was on the ropes. Biden was very high in the polls in the beginning. In the middle, he wasn't high in the polls. So Bloomberg just jumped in. And the trouble with Bloomberg is his ads were better than he was. When he got on stage, he was fairly awkward and clumsy, though he's a pretty good operator. Senator Warren takes credit for knocking him out of the race. But he would have attracted those moderate voters, like Buttigieg's people and Amy Klobuchar and all the rest of them. But when Joe Biden regrouped, that is, when he got back where he was, there was no room for Bloomberg, so he steps off the stage. Look, maybe it's a good thing. That kind of money can't get you into the final 3 or 4. On the other hand, he gave it a go, and I think Bloomberg would have been a refreshing debater down the road against even, you know, the other people. I think he'd have picked up the lessons. But look, Bloomberg has more money than anybody in the room. He can do what he wants. He gave it a go. And look, Tanika, if you and I want to go to Mars, we have to put down, you know, $2 million for a ticket that may never come good. That's what he did. He wanted to go to Mars. He wanted to go to the White House, and he put down his $500 million. And what did he get? He didn't even get to go to Disneyland.
Well, I think that was put very well. You're right. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's been interesting watching his campaign for sure. Now, Professor, of course, we're waiting for this showdown in Phoenix between Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden. How do you think both of them will fare now?
Well, I think Biden has to tell the American people exactly what he stands for. Right now, he looks electable, but is beating Donald Trump enough. You got to have a program. Now, Bernie's got a nice program. It's about universal health care and universal child care, and it's about relieving student debts, sending people to public universities for free. He's got a great story. The only trouble is, as well as affordable health care, he can't pay for it. He doesn't know how to pay for this exactly. I mean, he doesn't tell anybody what it costs. He just hopes everyone's coming along for the ride. I think if Biden could raise those questions about the cost and substitute his own narrative. Right now, Biden doesn't have a great story. What Biden is saying is, I'm here if you want to beat Donald Trump. But is it enough to beat Trump? You know, the people in America who are making $10 an hour, it cares, you know, it matters to them who's in the White House and who's going to pay for everything. Now, Bernie is selling pie in the sky to some Americans. You know, it's going to cost a lot of money. And if you can't pay for something, whether it's America or Australia, what do? You take it from people who've got money and you give it to someone else. That doesn't appeal for very long. So Biden's going to have to suggest what he's going to put in place of this. I think it's about affordable health care, keep that going. I think he's talking about logic and common sense. And he did tell the Munich Security Conference last year, we'll be back. That is, America can be counted on in the future as a trusted ally. Well, it can be if he comes back like this. But look, I think the most important thing for the two of them in the next debate and the debates after is to make some really good suggestions about who their vice president should be. Biden is 78 going on 79. I'm sorry, 77 going on 78. Bernie Sanders will be 79 by the time the election comes around. You know, we've lost 8 presidents in office, 4 have been murdered, 4 have died, 30 been shot at. I mean, you know, you need a good vice president, someone who's a heartbeat away. And I think if Vice President Biden chooses a brilliant woman, maybe a senator or someone like Klobuchar or even Kamala Harris, I think she'd blow Sanders out of the water. Sanders, it'd be hard for him to get a running mate. I mean, you know, as Hillary Clinton said, no one likes the guy. You know, I want to spend all day with someone you don't like. And so I think Biden is going to do very well, but he's going to have to shore up his story. In other words, why vote for me? And Bernie's going to go along the same thing, but Bernie's up against everything. He's up against the Democratic establishment, which is afraid of the down ticket, because on that day, you know, when they vote for Bernie, if Bernie gets the vote and it doesn't play well down the ticket, then you got a senator who might not get in, a congresswoman who might not get in. It goes right down to the dog catcher. That's why the establishment's terrified of Bernie. While he gets the highly motivated people at the top, the moderates down the ticket might be wiped out on the day. So that's why they don't trust him. No. So I think he's going to have to reassure them.
Well, look, it's going to be very interesting to watch. Of course, all eyes now on Phoenix. Professor Joe Siracusa, thank you so much for your analysis this afternoon.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.